Hi there. The Game of Thrones Season 8 Blu-ray set is going to contain unreleased deleted scenes from Season 7 in it. Previously unreleased deleted scenes. The biggest of which seems to be a big setup scene about the prince that was promised prophecy, about Azor Ahai and the hero with the flaming sword who will defeat the White Walkers, return again as Jon Snow and or Daenerys. And just, did they delete this, and more importantly, then hide it by not including it in the Season 7 set 2 years ago? Hide it from public release, because Season 7, mid-Season 7, was around the same time they also decided to abandon the entire Prince That Was Promised prophecy with Jon Snow, and have Arya defeat the White Walkers by killing the Night King. This is just a quick video, so to make this quicker to edit and make it easier for you to watch, the rest of this is going to be audio only, just parked on this screenshot we have of it. Now, I just made a big video talking about the 5 deleted scenes from Season 8 that will be included in it, but bizarrely, when you look at the list of components in it, it has these deleted Season 7 scenes. I'm going to make a follow-up video when this set comes out, but we found this out by looking at the DVD ratings website and seeing the lists of components. So when I heard that it's listed, Episode 7 premiere, big Sam and Gilly scene, I instantly thought that we had heard of that already, that it wasn't like a leaked photo, that one of the official promo images for the Season 7 premiere, every week when they were making them, they put out half a dozen promo shots by HBO's Helen Sloan. She does the photography, the promo shots. And there was this big high-definition one of Sam and Gilly reading through some of the books he brought with him to Winterfell from the Citadel in Oldtown, about the White Walkers and the Long Night. And what's interesting about this high-res promo shot is that the book Gilly is reading is very detailed and fully legible. This is fully visible. Zoom in here. Which seems to strongly imply we're going to have a scene of her reading it off and discussing it with Sam. That you wouldn't have. It is really difficult. A lot of work goes into making these high-quality props of, parchment manuscripts with the handwriting. A lot of work went into that prop. This wasn't just a throwaway gag or something. This was what you call a hero prop meant to be seen on screen. And, doing a basic search for what she's reading in it, that this is a direct copy of the text from the real-life source book published in 2014, The World of Ice and Fire, co-written by George R. R. Martin and Elio and Linda of Westeros.org, collecting his notes. It's a direct copy of the section in The World of Ice and Fire on legends about the Long Night and how it ended, and of the prophesied hero that will come again. And there are actually myths about the Long Night all over the world, even in the further east, in Yiti, which is their fantasy version of China. Let me read it off here. This is a direct quote. It is also written that there are annals in Ashai, that's where Melisandre is from, of such a darkness, and of a hero who fought against it with a red sword. His deeds are said to have been performed before the rise of Valyria, in the earliest age when Old Geese was first forming its empire. This legend has spread west from Ashai, and the followers of R'hllor, the Lord of Light, claim that this hero was named Azor Ahai and prophesy his return. In the Jade Compendium, the author recounts legends from Yiti. This is a huge narrative thread in the books. But in the TV show, they barely mention the term the prince that was promised, and this wasn't a conscious thought to remove it. They'd keep saying, oh, we're going to do it a little later, but, they were terrified of narrative setup that they would have to follow up to later, because they were proceeding so unplanned for what's a book adaptation where the author told you the outline of the future books. It's no excuse that it's not finished yet. He told you a general outline of what's going to happen. They said he did. That they kept going, oh, we don't know how much time we have to fill things in. So, like, the Ironborn Kingsmoot subplot was just in limbo for a while. If they thought they might be able to do it, but they weren't sure. Well, the problem with that is you can't just go either or and have it up in the air like that. You have to firmly decide what you will or won't do. Because then the problem is they missed out on putting in a lot of setup scenes. So relative to the novels, the TV show has very little prophecy in it, compared to a big part of the book fandom is picking apart prophecy, not even magical prophecy, but hints about future plot things that you can pick apart. This is what the Manderleys are doing. This is what's going on in the Oldtown plot. Set up for later seasons, which they really would not put the effort into. And we were warning about this by like season 3, and predictably it bit them in the ass eventually, that as the chickens came home to roost, that by season 8 you suffered from you didn't have any setup for plot lines, and your answer was not to do them. That if you think this was a conscious plan not to do this, no, they were planning on doing a lot of stuff, then spur of the moment would drop it. Like the fact that they've admitted it's not a theory, they just on video right there. Oh yeah, Arya killing the Night King is an idea we came up with in season 7. That this isn't something they were planning long in advance, and they desperately tried to retcon something Melisandre said in season 3 into, no, this was prophesying that, but in the same breath almost, in that same video, saying, oh yeah, but we only really thought of this in season 7, that's a retcon. Just who do you think you're fooling? So, it's big, detailed prop. This is a hero prop in a promo image. This was a big scene, and there's no equivalent to that in the season 7 premiere. I think there was, and we predicted this for years, and just even right after season 7 ended, 2017, we all kind of knew that there must have been a big scene of Sam and Gilly talking about the Prince That Was Promised prophecy. But then they abruptly abandoned that entire storyline mid-season. Like, actually sit down and think, how late in production on season 7 was this changed that you actually filmed setup scenes for the Prince That Was Promised? Because then there, of course, there's scenes of Arya sparring and stuff with Brienne, which they later said that was supposed to set up that she can do that kind of fight move, switching hands. So that was by near the end of filming season 7. But you're supposed to write it and then film it as 2 distinct phases, not make stuff up on the fly as you're filming, much less disjointed from other seasons. And really, I've seen a lot of mainstream news sites that were totally in the dark because no one really wanted to research these guys. It was just celebrity culture. But there's mainstream news sites, even now, after season 8, who are stunned, genuinely stunned, as if, like that Austin Film Festival panel. These were things Benioff and Weiss were saying that they were hearing for the first time, but all the fans have been keeping track of this. I mean, it's not a minority. It's a fairly large part of the online analysis community, and major channels know these infamous comments that Benioff and Weiss have made at public panels like San Diego Comic-Con or that big Oxford Union panel, which was 5 years ago. This is circulated, that Benioff and Weiss will boast and mock people. They will boast about how little experience they had, and basically taunting the world that we faked our way into running a TV show. But I mean, these are objective facts. They don't know how screenwriting works. They think it's about the faces and no dialogue. And more important than that, the objective problems of when they'll admit, we didn't know how to coordinate with the costuming department in terms of basic ordering parts, setting up schedules, things you need to physically film. They didn't know. This isn't a matter of my opinion of their work. So later when we saw these behind-the-scenes reports, no, Battle of the Bastards was falling apart behind the scenes. The Battle of Winterfell was a nightmare behind the scenes, that it was really falling apart and not successful. And people didn't want to report on those things, but this has been going on forever, and it's so weird that even now after the show ended, you see people who this is the first time they're learning this, because we haven't had big exposés yet, but I'm trying to fix that. Of just what an impulsive man-child David Benioff was on this, and still is. That, and I've talked about this in my other videos, if you're new to this, every major change from books to TV series, all the controversial changes, was made the season it happened. usually in the middle of filming itself, not even during the writing phase. And we know this from cited production reports, cited statements by cast and crew, or they'll openly admit them. And by major changes, I'm listing up, and when they go, oh, well, they ran out of book material. We were yelling before they even ran out of book material by the end of season 6, when there were still book storylines. Season 5, all of that was technically stuff still covered by the books. It's not that they ran out of books, they willfully abandoned them. Only to then realize, and people don't consider that because that's insane. Like, why would you do that when it turned out to be a train wreck that you know you weren't good at this without Martin? But when I say the major storylines, I've asked people, generally we agree the top 4 or 5 big controversial or just drastic changes you've heard of, like the Rob Talissa storyline in season 2, she's Jane Westerling in the books. We know from very detailed production on set, like casting reports and set spies, if they're going, she showed up on set and suddenly everyone was calling her Talissa, but the casting sheets are still calling her Jane. Like, we know that was changed in season 2 as they were filming it. And that was one of the first big changes people noticed. But then the really controversial ones, like the Sansa rape storyline, which in turn overlaps with how Stannis was killed off. The entire Bolton North storyline in season 5. We know from the archived scripts in the Writers Guild archive in LA, the season 4 scripts were setting up the book storylines for Sansa. That was a last-minute idea. That is not something they intended to do when they were making season 4. Or Dorne, like Cogman just flat out admitted, as we were making season 5, Benioff and Weiss suddenly thought, hey, we have time to make a 40-minute subplot and, quote, cram it in. When, it's not even the writing phase, we're already filming. Or your other stuff, just to name a few, like, things they openly admitted in later seasons, which even if this is books or not, even if this was a purely TV-only storyline, you then abandoned it for a second TV-only storyline as you were filming. Like Lena Headey openly admitting 3 weeks after the series finale, yeah, a Cersei miscarriage scene was filmed for the season 7 finale. Not just scripted, filmed. Then they deleted it. And unfortunately, it's not one of the deleted scenes included in this set, so we'll never see the light of day. But on the other hand, we don't need it to. Lena Headey confirmed it existed. But that means that Cersei's entire Season 8 storyline would have been drastically different. By extension, Jaime's. And the running theory is that Cersei was going to be so bereaved over losing her baby that she'd go mad with grief, and that Cersei would be the Mad Queen who burns King's Landing with wildfire, not Daenerys. And given how they talk in the DVD commentary, and Benioff and Weiss specifically, it even seemed like they were setting up a Daenerys pregnancy storyline, but later abandoned. But focusing on the miscarriage there, when they go, oh yeah, you're just being bitter that, oh, this isn't what we intended with Daenerys in Season 8. Like, I don't think they intended Daenerys to turn evil when they were making Season 7. And if that sounds far-fetched, Lena Headey basically confirmed Cersei's entire Season 8 storyline was something they made up, that they switched to in post-production on Season 7. At some point in the combined filming overlapping with editing phase on Season 7, there came a point when they began filming it, there were going to be more setup scenes for the prince that was promised, and there was going to be a Cersei miscarriage scene, which in turn would have drastically changed her storyline. And during the editing process in post, they took out most of the setup scenes, as well as the Cersei miscarriage, and just rewrote both storylines almost from scratch, drastically. And I feel bad about this when I cycle around this. Kim Renfro, I actually really like. She's very intelligent. She knows a lot. She just wrote that book about all this. And I've been looking at some of her recent podcasts where she is starting to realize what's really going on, and stunned, just the dawning realization of what Benioff and Weiss are. We found out like 4 years ago. But Kim Renfro from Business Insider, in one of her recent podcast interviews, was just, it struck me the way she said it. She wondered aloud, quote, I wish the Daenerys going crazy stuff and burning King's Landing had been foreshadowed more in Season 7. Why didn't they show more scenes of her being isolated and paranoid back then? that would have helped so much. And it's Miss Renfro. Maybe they didn't foreshadow it because they didn't know it was going to happen. And this really was just another last-minute impulsive change by Benioff. And maybe none of this would happen in the books, even whatever. There were 2 TV-only storylines, and the books are going to do some third thing. It's whatever they were planning in Season 7. Whether it wasn't even based in the books, they didn't do it in Season 8. And we know this. They've said this. So looking through all that other stuff, the Sansa rape, Dorne, Talissa, cutting Tysha when they were setting that up through Season 3, that's the real reason Tyrion kills Tywin, that every major change of the top 4 or 5 you could list off, or stupid thing in Season 7 and 8, like Cersei not being pregnant and Jaime dying in her arms. I'm pretty sure Jaime's going to kill her in the books. There was never a major controversial change that was the result of years' worth of planning in advance. I mean, look at the DVD clips that are coming out now from those inside the episode things, where Benioff is just, he sounds like the act has dropped, and you really see what a narcissistic, impulsive frat boy he is. And that, yes, this is the type of crazy person who would do that. Yeah, the utter narcissist, utterly smug, and just thinking things up impulsively. And it was a failure of the system, media, reporting, whatever, that allowed a man like this to flourish for as long as he did, with no oversight or people even remarking on it. The fact that mainstream news is only starting to wonder about this kind of after Season 8 and not like after the Sansa rape, which was 4 years ago, and just you look at their DVD commentaries, my God, this man is a crazy person when he's describing all of this, that he really thinks he's writing strong characters or brilliant television, and this is the best ending ever, that we let a crazy person get into this. That they said, this is an idea we came up with 3 years ago. Arya killing the Night King. So this isn't that much more of a bombshell, more than he already just plain admitted, oh yeah, cutting out the Prince That Was Promised stuff with Jon Snow is an idea I came up with 3 years ago when we were making Season 7. This is just hammering the point home even more that we had more setup scenes. What strikes me as odd is there was one setup scene for the Prince That Was Promised stuff in Season 7, in an episode Benioff and Weiss didn't write. It was in the Cogman's episode, number 2, when Melisandre comes to meet Daenerys. And they even made a point of explaining the whole thing, that it's actually a gender-neutral term. Prince That Was Promised is more accurately ruler that was promised, leader that was promised. It can refer to a woman. And in the books, Maester Aemon starts thinking maybe it's really Daenerys, or both of them, that it can be more than one person. But why they left that scene in but cut out Sam and Gilly, if this is indeed what we're getting, I think because they cut out as much as they could, short of making the season truly unintelligible. That if you cut out, it wasn't just, hey, a big scene about the Prince That Was Promised, it was also introducing Melisandre to Daenerys, and this was in post. They didn't have time to refilm an introduction to Melisandre on Dragonstone again. So if they cut that scene, it's like, why is Melisandre suddenly here? That they couldn't cut it without making it blatantly unintelligible. But anything else related to that they could cut, it seems they did, very late into production. And this is just another giant piece of evidence of that. And my point in all of this is just how sloppy these changes have always been. That this wasn't just an idea we got when we were writing Season 7. Is like, if this was a book series, where each book is a distinct unit, like when the A Song of Ice and Fire books come out, and yeah, sometimes, like in Book 5, Martin might make minor retcons to things he did in Book 1, but because they're all distinct chunks, it feels a bit more natural than if, like, in the middle of Book 5, on page 300, Martin was retconning something he made on page 100. That is very weird. That's sort of the difference between books and TV series, I understand. It's just, if you think, oh, well, he's at least as much if Benioff is at least a professional enough of a writer that he has these big sit-down meetings with his writer's room. What writer's room? What writer's room? What women are in it, or other minorities? Just the stuff he said at the Austin Film Festival. Oh yeah, I'm this privileged son of a millionaire. And when someone, a hero on the Q&A line, managed to ask, like, why didn't you have qualified people with, like, you have no women in it? Why didn't you hire a woman with a writing degree to help you? Because I know what I'm doing. Wow. Grant, and I think you could have an all-male writing staff doing this well. It's just the fact that you are an untrained buffoon means it's all the more insulting that, and people pointing out, no, you're not good at writing the women or other people. He's not good at writing human beings because he's this sheltered narcissist millionaire's son who twists every narrative into fulfilling his childhood fantasies. Twisting different Lannister characters into acting out his own family emotional traumas. That, oh, I'm Tyrion, so everyone has to like Tyrion. And no, maybe Tywin's a nice dad because I wish my abusive, neglectful father was nice. These rants again, you wonder why everyone's always nice to Tyrion. It's because he thinks he is Tyrion. And he said this, oh, he's the character I identify with. So you turned him into a Mary Sue. But just, when the Austin Film Festival stuff really emphasized how much of he is not a professional. He's a frat boy failure who faked his way into this, and these aren't writing decisions being made in distinct chunks. There is no writer's room where they have this big sit-down meeting, have a defined endpoint, and then move on into the filming phase. From reports we get, like these really upsetting interviews that Miguel Sapochnik has been giving over the years of, we'll just keep getting these new scenes he hands in as we're filming. When on any professional production, we should not be accepting these. The writing phase is over. You can't rewrite this mid-filming. That's crazy. The fact that these scenes were filmed and exist show just how late in the production process in season 7 and the show as a whole they made these changes. It wasn't even a change initiated for season 7 at the beginning of it, but mid-thought in the middle of it. Like a painting or a book where the author died halfway through and you got a different author coming in to finish it in an entirely different style. I'm thinking like a painting or something. That season 7 is that incoherent because it started in production out of chronological order, you realize. But when they started, they thought they were going to do something more like the books with the prince that was promised, at least. And I don't know why they made that last-minute change. Possibly just because Benioff realized people were starting to predict what they were going to do and panicked. I don't know how many of the leaked scripts and season outlines to Reddit in the past 3 years were real or hoaxes. And just at what point did they decide to do that, and what were they originally going to do? Even if it didn't reflect the books, hard to say. But what is the importance of getting this Samwell and Gilly scene next week when all this is... It's leaking out online already, but I will review this when I see the full thing. It drastically highlights just how late in production, 7 years in, they were suddenly willing to flippantly abandon years of setup on Jon Snow's entire storyline, apparently during the post-production editing phase on season 7. And they've admitted this. But it's the fact that thousands of copies of this Blu-ray are going out, and fundamentally, deleted scenes of the actors doing stuff have more impact, because millions of people, thousands of people online go to look for these things, and the thousands of Blu-ray copies are streaming, than an interview they did at a film panel in Austin. That this will be much more circulated than we could ever do. Just as the inside the episodes did a lot of damage to their reputation because they disseminate them to millions of people. Casual viewers would be seeing this. So even more than like the Austin film panel or any of the other stuff where they say really embarrassing things, self-incriminating things, if this is what we think it is, that's a setup scene about the prince that was promised, it will emphasize that to a widespread audience, that you changed this as you were filming or maybe after you were done filming. This and the Cersei miscarriage and possibly, probably the Daenerys going crazy stuff, that this isn't, when they go, oh, this isn't the real ending. Well, of course it's real. It's physically what we really made. The full thought is, this is not what you were even intending to make for a show-only audience when you were making Season 7. It isn't just books versus TV series anymore, because otherwise, guys, so many book fans abandoned the show after Season 5 that why would so many people who were show-only fans with no knowledge of the books be complaining about Season 8 relative to Seasons 5 through 7? People who stuck with them through Season 7 finally turned on the show after Season 8. I can't deprogram my mind that I already know what the books are like. It's fascinating to see the reactions of people who didn't read the books. Many of whom did turn on the show in Season 5. This is not, something is going on, and I'm not sure what because I didn't read it, but I can tell there's some weird thing going on behind the scenes. A lot of people said that I managed to, other people thought, oh, they're going somewhere with this, but that happened drastically again by Season 7, and even more so by Season 8, of we didn't read the books, but we can tell you're screwing around and something is happening. That this is not the ending you were building towards. And it's not even a matter of books to TV series, and I look forward to getting this scene when it leaks online, which will be soon.